Hey everyone, and welcome. Have you ever gotten a big research assignment and just stared at the blank page, not knowing where to even start? Well, you're in the right place. Today we're going to break it all down and give you a step-by-step guide to building a rock-solid foundation for your research.
So let's start with the big question. How do you build a strong argument from literally nothing? You know, the best way to think about it is like a construction project. You'd never, ever start building a house without a detailed blueprint and some really good materials, would you? Of course not. The exact same idea applies when you're writing a research paper.
Okay, so let's get into it. Every single great research project is built on three essential components. Seriously, just three. Think of these as your master blueprint and all your key building materials. If you can get these three things right from the beginning, everything else just kind of falls into place.
And here they are, the big three. Number one, you've got your working thesis. Number two, your primary source. And number three, your secondary sources. These pieces all work together, they're interconnected, and they form the entire base for your argument. Let's break down what each one actually is.
First up, your working thesis. This thing is your project's blueprint. And it's not just a topic, right? It's a sharp, clear, and, this is key, debatable statement. It basically declares to the world, here's what I am setting out to prove. Everything you do from this point on, every source you find, has to connect back to this thesis. It's your guiding star.
Next up is your primary source. Now, if the thesis is the blueprint, think of the primary source as the plot of land you're building on. It is the one central text, the core case study that your entire argument is going to be built around. And for this assignment, that's going to be one specific article you choose from Issues and Controversies. And that brings us to the third piece, your secondary sources. These are your raw materials. We're talking the bricks, the steel beams, the concrete, all the stuff you actually use to build. These are credible, research-backed sources that provide the hard evidence you'll use to construct your argument and prove that your thesis is solid.
So, you know you need good materials. But where do you find them? I mean, you can't just pick up random junk from the side of the road and expect to build a sturdy house. You have to go to certified, approved suppliers. And in the world of research, that means knowing exactly where to find credible, academic sources.
And listen, this distinction is absolutely crucial. Your number one approved supplier should always be your library's academic databases. A quick Google search might feel easy, but it's going to give you millions of results, and frankly, most of them won't be good enough for this kind of project. You got to stick to the databases.
And if you're wondering where to start, here are some of the best suppliers in the business. Databases like Academic Search Complete, JSTOR, and Galen Context are just packed with high-quality, pre-vetted information. Think of these as the professional-grade supply stores for your research.
Let's get even more specific about what counts as a good material. You're looking for things like peer-reviewed articles, academic books, and maybe government reports. What you want to avoid, and I mean really avoid, are things like Wikipedia, personal blogs, or random opinion pieces. It's truly the difference between building with structural steel and trying to build with flimsy cardboard.
All right, so just like any real construction project, this one has a building code, a set of non-negotiable rules you have to follow. This assignment is no different. So let's take a minute and quickly run through the specific project specs you've got to meet.
First up, your primary source. The rule here is super simple. You need exactly one, and it must come from Issues and Controversies. This is non-negotiable, okay? It is the designated plot of land for this entire project. Next, let's talk about your building materials, your secondary sources. To build your argument, you're going to need a total of 6, not 5, not 7. The magic number is 6. Think of these as the 6 main pillars that are going to hold up your entire thesis. Now, of those 6 sources, there's an important quality control rule. At least 3 of them, so half of your materials, have to be peer-reviewed journal articles. This is to make sure that the core of your structure is built from the strongest, most reliable, most heavily vetted materials available.
Your materials also need to be fresh. All of your sources, every single one, must have been published within the last 10 years. This just makes sure that your argument is relevant and built on the latest thinking, not on information that's already out of date.
And finally, just 2 quick technical rules to wrap this up. All of your sources have to be in English, and you've got to use MLA citation style. Think of this as the final inspection, just making sure everything is up to code and labeled correctly.
Okay, we're in the home stretch now. You've got your blueprint, and you've gathered all your high-quality materials. Now it's time to create a master plan to get everything organized before you even think about writing. This step is going to make the whole process so much smoother.
So, here's a simple 5-step checklist to get you organized. First, write that working thesis right at the top of a document. Then list out your primary source and the 6 secondary sources you picked. After that, look through them and pull out 2 or 3 main themes or topics that keep popping up. Finally, you pull it all together into what's called a working bibliography.
And here is the most important thing to remember as you're doing this. For every single source you pick, you have to ask yourself, how does this help build my argument? Every single source needs a job to do. It's either a brick in your wall or a beam holding up the roof. If it's not doing anything, you don't need it.
And here's one last pro tip for you. As you're creating that working bibliography, don't just list the titles. Go ahead and write out the full MLA citation for each source right then and there. Trust me, it will save you a massive headache later. And right next to that citation, just jot down a quick note to yourself about how that source helps your argument.
And there you have it. You've got the blueprint, you've got the materials, and now you have the master plan. Your foundation is officially set and ready to go. So the only real question left is, what argument are you going to build?